Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I hope that everyone can hear me well. My name is Travis Erdman. I'm Chief of Staff at Millward Brown Optimore. I'll be presenting today along with Rachel Eisenberg, the Director of Strategy and Marketing at Millward Brown Digital. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll be taking you through our 2014 study, Getting Digital Right. We'll leave some time for questions at the end, so please submit them via webinar interface to make sure your question is addressed. For those of you unfamiliar with Millward Brown, we're the world's leading experts in helping clients grow great brands. The added layer that I always like to add is that we do so in a digital world. In the past, the digital environment was thought of as a conversion channel and TV was thought of as brand building. As you're all aware, those days are over. Today, consumers seamlessly migrate between online and offline channels, no longer paying any attention to the distinction between the two. Throughout our conversation, we will discuss how marketers can begin to act like consumers and use those consumer interactions to build their brand. Because digital is so often misunderstood, we truly believe that getting digital right is the CMO's biggest opportunity. It is underinvested in comparison to its potential and reach, and it is critical to the younger target segments. Getting digital right is not just the name of the study, but it's really our mantra for 2014. Without further ado, we'll launch right into the study itself. Getting Digital Right is a collaboration between the Millward Brown Optimore and Millward Brown Digital teams. Millward Brown Optimore is Millward Brown's brand strategy consultancy, and the aptly named Millward Brown Digital focuses on helping brands drive marketing excellence through digital ad effectiveness and consumer intelligence solutions. Our study consisted of two main parts. The first was a series of 16 executive interviews focused on the evolution of the digital and media landscape and marketing's biggest challenges within that growing space. Interviews spanned industry-leading companies like Google, ESPN, Kellogg, Intel, and Mindshare. The second element of the study was an online survey of senior marketing executives with a title of manager or above. Again, these individuals spanned marketing functions across e-commerce, marketing, research and analysis, strategy, and media functions. From an industry point of view, respondents covered a wide spectrum of industries including CPG, financial services, retail, tech, telecom, business services, travel, and transportation. So, a very diverse group of marketers provided a robust understanding of the needs and challenges of the digital landscape as an input to our findings. Through these interviews, we developed a framework to think about the biggest challenges facing marketers in the digital realm. Though there are many, 4 key challenges stood out. Sorry about that. First, connecting digital and traditional marketing. This challenge is the most organizational in nature. It's really all about how marketing teams are often structured and the power that can come from connecting digital to brand marketing. As many of you likely know, silos inhibit integration in many firms today. The second is how to optimize media allocation. This one is all about investment decisions. I have limited resources and many options. Where should I be investing? And what is the right mix that is best fit for my brand? Critical questions like these are relevant for the C-suite, which impacts their power. The third is expanding consumer and channel insights. This is truly the essence of being a marketer, understanding consumers, who they are, how they act, and therefore how to engage them. Digital is a platform by which this can be done more accurately and efficiently. Finally, our fourth challenge is all about marketing ROI and how important it is. For many who have been in this industry for a long time, these are not groundbreaking new challenges. But we think this framework is helpful, and frankly, it is shaping how we think about our business for 2 reasons. One, providing you with this framework for how to address and think about the industry's biggest challenges is an important first step in solving them. It makes a highly complex series of issues far more digestible. 2, these challenges are tough in the world of traditional marketing. They are made even more complex with digital layers and mobile layers on top of that. Now, as Rachel walks us through each challenge in more detail, 2 things to take away. First, an understanding of how your organization stacks up against the industry for these challenges, using this study as a benchmark. Second, best practices to help your organization overcome these obstacles. With that, I'll hand it off to Rachel, and she'll walk us through each of these challenges in more depth.
Thank you, Travis. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Okay, so before I go ahead and dive into detail a little more, want to make sure that, sorry, let me hide that for you. Perfect. That you folks are submitting questions, because we are going to take questions at the end, so please submit them through the web interface. So before we get into the details of the framework and some specifics around the challenges, we want to give you some context for why this is all important. I joke that digital has always been thought of as this rambunctious toddler playing off in the corner. It sits in the corner doing its digital thing, playing with the other digital toddlers, and every so often walks over to the brand marketing parents, trying desperately to get some attention, sharing thoughts like, did you know digital consumption outpaces TV consumption? Or did you know that millennials are more influenced by digital ads than TV ones? Did you know my neighbor has a pet rabbit? And the brand marketing parents give off a nice patronizing, that's nice to hear, and if you are a parent or have parents, you know what I'm talking about. And digital is told to go back to playing on its own. I'm joking, of course, but I'm guessing there are a few of you smiling, nodding your head that this isn't that far from the truth. So for those of us who work in the digital marketing space, it probably is of no surprise that digital accounts for approximately 2/3 of the media usage, but only 40% of the spend among TV, mobile, and online screens. This is what we really mean when we say it's time for digital to move beyond the kids' table. So let's dive in. Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go. The first challenge is connecting digital to traditional marketing. For many organizations, digital and traditional marketing are conducted separately with limited connection. And this translates into disconnected strategic planning, poor information sharing, and in some extreme cases, even distinct lack of coordination. The quote you see here on the page from one executive really speaks to the sentiment we heard from many. A holistic view across channels is aspirational for us. Our consumers seamlessly move between devices and channels. We want our strategies to align accordingly. This quote really speaks to why this disconnected approach to marketing is such an issue. So only 42% of organizations surveyed are integrating their digital strategy into their brand strategy. That means that 60% aren't. This is where digital marketing is really limited from reaching its potential. And then on top of that, there's this big myth that digital is just one silo, when in fact for many organizations, digital is just really is a group of islands within that silo. You have your mobile team, you have your creative team, you have your social team, all of whom may be disconnected within digital. The good news is that 80% of those who we surveyed thought that having a central strategy is critical for best-in-class marketing. We need to make sure the right hand and left hand are working together toward one central brand-building marketing plan. However, if having one central plan seems daunting or organizationally impossible, just start with basic information sharing. Then over time, begin coordinating individual marketing plans to connect to one larger one, moving in the direction of a centralized strategy. This can be a transition you make over time. So what happens when you do this? You've broken down your organizational barriers, you've pushed through. Why? What's the benefit? And with that, I'll give you one example from a client we work with and the power that can come from this connection. One of our clients in the automotive space does a really fantastic job with this. They have a consumer insights team who collect mountains of data on the consumer and use it to segment their customer base into key segments by purchase funnel and key demographics. Now this is an automotive company, which means that the vast majority of purchases are happening offline, but a considerable amount of research and decision making is happening online. So the consumer insights team builds these segments. They work with the creative teams, both online and offline, to make sure we're strategically targeting these segments. They then work with the research team to measure the impact of these ads. The result has led to much higher marketing metrics, but also dramatically decreased the amount of time it takes them to react to new findings. Why this is important is we're constantly moving towards faster marketing, real-time optimization, real-time buying, even real-time creative, like we saw with Oreos dumped in the dark at the Super Bowl. But that shift, when you think about it organizationally, just for many of our clients, even having 2 teams within the marketing department work together, it can be like turning a cruise ship. If we take simple steps to increase that, the result's going to be far more strategic marketing that gets maximum impact. The next challenge and result of disconnected marketing organization is less than optimized media allocation. And this challenge is really about 2 things. 1, where to invest with limited resources to create the biggest impact. And 2, how to gain the organizational support that's needed to make some of these changes. We hear the sentiment that you see in this quote from clients and from the executives we spoke to, that they know digital can be as effective as TV, but their leadership may not be open to changing old ways. They want to stick with what's tried and true and when they know that works. To put some data behind this, that sentiment is that almost everyone, 81% of executives surveyed, felt that proper media allocation is pretty critical for success. That's the good news. The bad news is that only 19% were confident they're optimized effectively, and potentially even worse, only 39% think they're making effective use of the data at their disposal. Having the right data is a really good first step, but making sure you're utilizing it to inform decisions is a really important second step. So what does optimization look like? We asked the marketing executives what best-in-class marketing allocation looked like, and this was the result. One important note here when you're looking at this chart is this division is based on time and effort and not money, not spend. But the results were pretty interesting. Website and content development was number 1 at 19%, followed by a tie between online and traditional advertising. I thought it was pretty interesting that social and search were tied as well, and that mobile was behind email marketing at 8%. So we also asked them, though, what are folks doing today? How does today's allocation look like? And what's the difference that'll get us to best in class? The biggest discrepancies are indicated with an arrow. You can see that to get to best in class marketing, executives thought they needed to ramp up mobile advertising and applications and ramp down traditional advertising. And if you remember the data I showed you at the beginning, that mobile now outpaces both TV and online for time spent on device, we expect mobile share of the marketing pie to really only increase with time. The third challenge is all about the consumer. Understanding and engaging the consumer is frankly at the center of everything we do as marketers. I don't think there's anyone who's going to argue with this. The rub is how to measure consumer engagement. What tools do we use? How do we use the resulting data? We got a glimpse of this in the last section where many teams readily admit that using the data at their disposal to make decisions is not always their strong suit. So we asked marketing executives about what mix of research tools they expect to be using in 3 years. And again, this chart is based off of usage, not spend. The leading tool they expect to be using in 3 years is consumer behavioral insights. This is going to be coming from a combination of behavioral clickstream research and attitudinal survey research. In fact, over the past 3 years, 63% of marketing executives said they've increased their reliance on behavioral data. And over the next 3 years, 81% expect to continue to increase. This is a major shift in research as we see tried and true methods like audience measurement or marketing mix modeling continue to be an important part of the mix, but second and third to behavioral driven insights. Last, but certainly not least, is ROI. I think this quote sums up the client pain here quite well. The most important priority is ROI, simply put. Everything else in terms of pain is minor until that is resolved. ROI is not the sexiest challenge, but it is often the most important. How can you know you're optimizing your spend or engaging your consumers if you don't know the ROI on your investments? So we asked a series of questions to the marketing executives about ROI, trying to better understand how well folks can track ROI today by channel, and understanding for which channels proving ROI is an important factor to determine investment. The results here are pretty interesting. So you can see with the blue columns, blue represents importance, and that digital is seen as the most important channel to track ROI, followed by mobile, and then social and traditional coming in much lower. And what that means, and what the respondents were answering for that question, was that in order to invest in digital, 64% felt that they needed to be able to demonstrate a high ROI. That's how you can understand that blue column there. In many ways, this relates to that concept we discussed at the beginning, that digital has traditionally been thought of to drive action or conversion, whereas channels like TV have really been used to drive brand building. It's possible that social is thought in the same vein and already being used as a brand building channel. So now we're going to look at the purple columns. When we look at how well marketers are able to track ROI today, again, digital is on top. But this is where both mobile and social get really low scores. In fact, the biggest discrepancies between the importance and ability to track you see with mobile and social. As a result, 81% of marketers said they would increase their spend on digital, mobile, and social channels if they could better track ROI. I think what's interesting here is to dive deeper into the marketer's definition of the word return, for return on investment, because there are both short-term and longer-term implications to this. The shorter-term return is often thought of as the financial return on investment, the sale. The second area that provides a return beyond the sale itself is the impact on brand. This can have longer implications to favorability, likelihood to go back to a brand in the future, and it's often forgotten, especially in the world of mobile, digital, social, if you can't prove the immediate sale. The main takeaway here when we're thinking about ROI is that ROI is really tough to measure, but organizations don't need to do this all on their own. As we've seen, you may or may not have all the right data. We've seen repeatedly the team may or may not have all the right skills or knowledge base necessary to take the data that you do have and drive the insights you need. You work with partners to help identify the measures of ROI that are most important for your business, and then how you can track them in a consistent way. Consistent way being a really important piece of that. So hopefully now this sentence makes a little more sense to everyone. At Millward Brown, we truly believe that digital will punch above its weight, or another way of saying that is that it will drive more impact relative to its levels of investment once we can connect digital to brand building. And with that, I hope we left you with a few key takeaways about how your organization can get digital right. We also have one homework assignment for you. So immediately after this webinar, we're going to be circulating a worksheet that goes over the 4 main challenges, but it also has a section for scoring. I want you to take this, go back to your team, have a conversation around these 4 challenges, and rate yourself kind of using elementary school letter grades, A, B, C, D, F. And work with your team to understand both for how you stack up for each of these 4 challenges, both from your aspirational point of view, but also how you think you're doing against your competitors. And that way, there's a lot that we've gone over here, a lot of challenges here, and it's often really tough to know where to start or what to tackle first. This can be a nice tool for you to use to rate yourself so you can understand which areas are your weakest point and should be your first priority to go ahead and tackle. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. So one question we got is that, did you identify any additional challenges that CMOs faced through these conversations and survey that we conducted with this study? And for that question, I think I'm going to turn it over to Travis.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. I think that one thing that we found, and it's still a challenge today, obviously, is when we're talking about digital, you really can't miss mobile and social. So our 4 challenges here are very tactical in nature. But when we were talking with top marketing executives at the times, as this was a year ago, they didn't even know what to do with mobile, and social was completely unknown. So how do we measure mobile? What's the best way to use it? And then for many, social wasn't even an aspect or an area they were looking into yet. I think today we've made some progress in the mobile sphere. I think that more people are actually buying into social and its impact, but those are still clear unknowns and areas for us to better our expertise in the future.
Great. And another question we have, Travis, I think I'll toss this one as well, is for the organizations that we spoke to, how did we select the organizations we talked to, and how did they perform against these big challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we took into account what we thought were the most digitally savvy, well, actually, across the spectrum. We want not just the most digitally savvy, but also traditionally savvy marketing organizations. We looked at our wide network within WPP and Millward Brown, our clients, as well as people that we have strong relationships with. That helped us to identify the best people to talk to and the experts in this area. And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, we talked to some really amazing groups, Google, ESPN, Intel, Mindshare. So organizations that we see as truly digitally, quote unquote, so ones that are already experts or what we consider to be experts in this particular realm. And the amazing thing that we found was that even Google, the #1 brand in Brand Z today, the pinnacle of digital savviness, they haven't gotten all of these things right. They work very closely and very closely with partners and also very extensively on identifying and understanding ROI, as well as eliminating silos that are within their own business. So I think that this has not been mastered by anyone yet. Even the savviest organizations still have challenges, and I found that to be a really interesting find from the study as well.
Great. So another question we got was, which of these challenges are the most important to focus on, or kind of what was the recommended order to tackle? I think that taking that homework assignment, if you take it to heart and really go use it with your teams, is that all of these challenges are really important. This study came from a much broader conversation, a broader series of conversations with, as Travis was just saying, some folks who are doing some of this really quite well, and even they have these challenges. But they're all really important, and they're all something that to truly get digital right, there are 4 things that we really need to master. In terms of the order, I think that challenge #1, the organizational piece, and helping teams to become less siloed and really work together and become more centrally strategic in how you're executing on your marketing. And then the third one, the consumer one, and really understanding the consumer and understanding what they're doing, where they are, how to reach them. Those would be the ones to tackle first, and then from there, 2 and 4, because once you get it all in place, that's when you need to make sure you're able to measure it correctly with the ROI and that you're optimizing all those levers the best you can.
And Rachel, I think another amazing point here, especially on challenge 3, is that a lot of these things can continue to be refined. So I don't think we'll ever have a perfect understanding of consumer or the channel. So these are challenges that we'll continue to face digitally and beyond.
Great point. All right. Well, thank you all for attending today. If your question wasn't answered or we didn't get to it, please feel free to contact us. We have this email, digitalsolutions@millwardbrand.com, or contact whoever your contact is here, and we will make sure we do get it. But thanks so much for taking the time.